Oh, wait. So we start off, we have Ellie, which is this little guy, and Moshe the Beetle, which is here. Okay, so he is like his spiritual mentor, if you will, his religious mentor. So basically, Ellie wanted to learn more about his Jewish religion, and his dad was kind of like, "You're too young," and put it off. So he went to Moshe the Beetle to help him learn more about Judaism. We also meet Ellie's father. We do know that he's very well known in the community. And people like to go to him for advice. So he owns a shop. He's very well known within the community, but ironically enough, he's not very sentimental with his kids, even though he's like super well known and there for everybody in the community. So that's kind of where we start off. Moshe the Beetle is like a huge mentor in Ellie's life in the first 3 pages of the text. Okay, so all of a sudden, the foreign Jews started being taken out of Ellie's city of Saget. And Moshe the Beetle was a foreign Jew. So a lot of the Jewish people in Ellie's town thought that they were just literally being taken to another city to work happily somewhere else. But we know that's not the case. So they were kind of shaken up about it for a day or so, but then it was kind of one of those out of sight, out of mind. They stopped really thinking about the people that got taken out of their city, and just kind of went about life as normal. So obviously Ellie is like, "Where's my mentor? I haven't seen him," kind of thing. And he actually does come back, Moshe the Beetle, and he's got a pretty crazy story that he tells the town. And I'm going to talk about it in the next video because I want to have time to explain it. Okay, so Moshe the Beetle somehow survived and comes back to Saget to tell the town of his story and basically warn them about what's going on. And he literally tells the people that they were taken to Poland and the Gestapo forced them to build mass graves and shot them into the graves. He literally says they use babies to throw up in the air for target practice and all of these crazy sights that he saw while he was taken. And the craziest part is that the people of the town do not believe him. They literally think that he's gone crazy. They think that he is absolutely nuts and they don't believe him. And he came back to specifically warn them about what's to come, and literally no one believes him. Ellie's the only person that believes what he's saying, but literally everyone just thinks that he has gone crazy. And this is kind of the start of us seeing crazy events where Ellie and his family are warned, but either don't listen or continue on anyway. Okay, so now at this point, the Jewish people of Saget were beginning to hear about Hitler more and more often, but they honestly doubted that he could take out an entire population of people. They heard about him, but they're like, there's no way he's going to get to us. Okay, and Ellie even tried to get his dad to move to Palestine, but his dad insisted that he was too old to restart his life and wouldn't go. So obviously Ellie stays back with his family, but again, this is another example of Ellie literally trying to get his family to go, or them realizing, but then just not kind of making moves because they don't believe that this could actually happen or that it's even honestly real. So now the German soldiers are going to officially enter Saget, but at first they're actually pretty friendly to the people. So that, again, it gives the Jewish people kind of more hope that, hey, it might not be that bad. Okay, so like I said, the Nazi soldiers were actually pretty friendly at first, but slowly but surely they started to take over the Jewish people of the town and their lives. So they arrested their leaders. The Jewish people weren't allowed to leave their houses for 3 days. The police took all of their valuable things and threatened to kill them if they didn't give them up. All Jews had to wear a yellow star, and then the Jewish people weren't allowed in restaurants, to travel by train, to go to the synagogue, or to leave their houses after 6 p.m. So slowly but surely they started to kind of take over their lives, and basically just control what they were doing before they moved them. So then the Jewish people were then more forced to move into the ghettos, but Ellie's house was actually already kind of in a designated ghetto area, so they didn't have to move. And ironically enough, the Jewish people really didn't mind living in the ghettos because they were able to be with each other, and they actually kind of created their own Jewish community in that time, and they actually liked that people weren't always staring at them now. And so they kind of were in their new norm for a little bit. And then one night Ellie's dad comes back and basically tells them that they're going to be deported. And usually Ellie's dad is kind of laid back and really level-headed, but here he's clearly very anxious and scared, and is kind of warning everybody what is to come. And he basically tells all the Jewish people that they can only bring one bag of personal belongings, including a bit of food and just a few clothes with them, and that they're about to be moved again. Okay, so Ellie and the people of the town started to pack up their things, and a lot of people left really important, valuable items like family heirlooms, pictures, and stuff like that, simply because they no longer held value to them. So, like, maybe your, like, favorite stuffed animal, they didn't take because they're like, you know what, if I have to only take one bag of stuff, this isn't an essential item for me. So as they began to pack and move, the German police began to hit them with clubs and rifles. But it was weird because none of the Jewish people were even really resisting at this time. So they were really just kind of doing this to strike fear into them and say, hey, if you do resist, this is what's going to happen. So they kind of started to be a lot more, I guess, like strict and hurt them more, just to show them that there's no time to be rebelling against what they're doing. Okay, so another example of literally Ellie and his family almost having an opportunity to leave. Right before they had to leave, someone was knocking at Ellie's window, basically telling them that they need to flee, but they didn't get to the window quick enough to hear the message. And so at this point, Ellie was assigned to leave later, so he basically had to watch all of his teachers, his friends, everybody he knew leave the ghetto, and just they were basically all just broken, beaten down, and just absolutely distraught at the fact that they were being moved, because what they didn't think would ever happen was starting to happen. So Ellie's family was transferred to a smaller ghetto, and again, ironically enough, people still had hope that they weren't going to actually get deported because they truly didn't believe that these awful things could be happening. And again, Ellie's family was offered to go to a safe place by an old servant, and his dad refused and said that they could go. But obviously, Ellie wasn't going to split up from his family. So again, they had the opportunity to leave, but they kept the hope that this hopefully wouldn't happen. And at this part, Ellie kind of talks about how much he hates the Hungarian police. They make him run when they have no energy, and he officially starts kind of this, like, obviously the pattern of hatred that he begins to feel towards these police. Okay, so in our last part for this section of the reading, so they got to stay in the ghettos for about 3 or so days. But on that Saturday, they had to go to the synagogue, and they stayed there for 24 hours. The men stayed downstairs, and the women ended up staying upstairs. If someone had to go to the bathroom, they literally had to go in the corner of the building. And the next morning, they were moved to the cattle cars, and the German police basically said, hey, there's one person in charge of each car. And if just one person escaped from the car, that person in charge would get shot. So they assigned a Jewish person to be in charge, make sure nobody escaped. And they were off, and they were in the cattle cars, and that's where we'll pick up